Good morning and welcome to Sunday Story Hour, where we share real-life stories of how human design has helped our guests know themselves on a deep transformational level. By knowing and trusting ourselves, we develop deeper, more honest relationships and unlock our true gifts. I'm Kathy Bashanko, and my guest this week is Orion Ohev. I hope I pronounced your last name right. I never asked you if that's how you say it.
Got it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Orion is a 2/4 pure sacral manifesting generator. He's the archetype manifesting generator with that 3420. For those who know, you know. So I met Orion at this conference I just came back from a couple weeks ago, and I just couldn't wait to bring him on the show so he could share his story and some of the great tools that he has found, created, come up with, however we want to say it. And so I'm just going to defer right to you, Orion, and whatever you want to tell us about your story of how you found human design and what it's meant to you. I'll just let you dive right in, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. Happy to. And thanks for having me this morning. And I am excited to share. And I found human design actually through my coaching practice about almost 10 years ago now, but not nine plus years ago. And it was because I was coaching. I had my first round of 10 clients. So really newbie coach, still learning the ropes myself. And I had seven of my clients I was performing really well with. Like, they were performing really well. My coaching was really working. There's 3 clients who I was just stumped by, and I could not figure them out. They felt like aliens to me. And I was looking for ways to understand them better, and was just Googling, like, how can I get to know someone very quickly as a coach? And somewhere along that research, human design came along, and I asked for all my clients' birth information. I ran my chart. I started experimenting with my chart, and I found that those 3 clients were 2 projectors and a manifestor. And as you said, I'm a manifesting generator. And at the time, I was definitely, a young whippersnapper and thought I knew it all, and was just coaching as a generator. And I was, of course, it's not effective for 2 projectors and a manifestor, but that really helped me lose my immediate skepticism, because I'm a science geek nerd. Like, what is this birth information stuff? How is this telling me so much about myself? But as soon as I got those charts, I didn't tell them that they were 2 projectors and a manifestor. I just started shifting my coaching based on their chart, and they started getting the same results as my other clients. So that was the beginning.
That's so cool. I want to back up just a minute, because I forgot to give my little disclaimer that in this group that we go live in, and just later, even on YouTube, people are of various degrees. Like, some people might find this like you, doing a random search for something else and not know anything. So you being a generator type, a manifesting generator, that's 70% of humanity has that type of way that we are here to interface with our energy with the world. But the 2 types that you mentioned, the projectors and the manifestors, are different. And so they have an open sacral, which at some point we could talk about, but just that's the difference. They're very different than that other 70%. So that's how it all clicked, which makes sense since I'm a projector. I get it.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Yes, I'm sure if you were ever coached to be a generator, that was not a pleasant experience. So
you still haven't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can keep sharing.
Keep going. Yeah. Sorry. I just wanted to.
No worries. I didn't know if you had another follow-up question.
Keep going. That's great.
So for my personal journey, so that was the immediate need I had, was how can I serve these people that I don't understand, that they're, for whatever reason, they're not able to do what I'm asking them to do, or it's not working for them, and finding out, oh, cool. And then really testing this thing out immediately and seeing whoa, okay, so these 2 people do need to wait for invitations. And when they do, magic happens. Wow. And this manifestor over here needs to just jump in and, initiate in a way that I'm not used to initiating. And, so then in my journey, I took it deeper and really started to play with my sacral response. So as you mentioned, for anyone that's joining, just finding this, the sacral response is the strategy of pure generators and manifesting generators. And it's a feeling, an actual feeling in the body of energy either rising up the body or contracting in. And it's basically your energy, this inner compass, this inner wisdom for generators that lets you know, hey, this is something to use me for this, or hey, don't use me for this, basically. And it's this, I started playing with that. That was the first step of my human design journey. And that, it was a years long journey. And, for me and it's something I'm really excited to chat with you about today, the embodiment of human design and how important it is and how easy it is to go down tons of rabbit holes in human design. But without the practice, none of it matters. And for me, it took a year plus before I was really able to feel my sacral. And then another 6 months before I was able to really distinguish it from emotions in my body. It took a lot of intention and a lot of practice to know that I was following my sacral and not my emotions. So I'll pause there for a second.
Yeah, that's really important too, because you are open emotional solar plexus. And so that whole learning of not letting what you felt as your emotions rule you, because you had to even learn whose they really were, right? In a lot of cases, you were responding to other people's emotional waves, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah. And yes, and it was really intense. And that's how I grew up. I grew up, one of the interesting things is to look back on life before human design and just see where my conditioning was showing up, where I had learned to not be who I am and how I've unraveled that, but also where I already was being who I was without realizing it. And the open solar plexus being this place where I am here to guide. I am here to help people navigate their emotions in different ways. I'm here to sample and experience many people's different emotional experiences. And yeah, I was naturally, as a teenager, the person everyone would come to share their emotions and to share their breakup problems and boy problems and girl problems and all these things, at work, whatever job I had. And that was really interesting. And, it's one of the main things I do now is still helping people, navigate their emotions in a powerful way, be present with their emotions and utilize it as wisdom and build their capacity to be back in their body with their emotions.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you have had clients that you've coached that have emotional authority, mm-hmm. and how, so many coaches want you to just do it. You just gotta, rip the Band-Aid off. You just gotta go. You gotta make the decision. And so I'm thinking you being someone who's meant to make a decision in the now, for the most part, you do have that integrative circuit pretty heavily, which sometimes needs some time, but you are meant to trust what that sacral response is saying in the moment. So, you mentioned the different energy types, but I'm wondering if that learning who had emotional authority, if that was something that also.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, as you said, just to learn about the consistency versus inconsistency of emotions is really interesting because, for me, my emotions are always shifting based on who I'm around, what the planets are doing. So, and it gives me that sampling nature. So just even the idea that there's some people out there that experience their emotions in a consistent way that they can learn to rely on and feel in their body has been huge for my clients and for me to be able to support them, especially with emotional authority there. And it's really cool to watch. I think, again, human design is probably something I never, ever would have believed in if it wasn't for me constantly over the last 9 years, over 450 readings now, seeing it work time and time and time again. And when people really learn what that wave feels like for people with an emotional authority, and they learn how to feel it in their body, and they learn what that emotional clarity feels like on the other side, and that they can start to separate their mind and notice their mind and making all sorts of meaning of the emotional highs and the emotional lows, and start to separate that out and let their mind do that, let the waves happen, and just realize it. What's up?
I'm having flashbacks to when I was trying to learn all that. I really was trying to learn how to deal with my emotional wave in a way. And I don't mean to cut you off, but this is just such a strong part of my experiment, and for those of you who are new to this, human design is meant to be lived as an experiment. It's not a rule book that you just follow the rules. It's like you say, oh, here's something that something says, and then let me see how that works for me. And so, but this whole idea just for those who don't know my design, I have a completely open ajna, which means I'm supposed to be, I don't know the truth. I don't need to know the truth. I hold space for all truth, right? I'm left angle cross of uncertainty, which means I'm supposed to have this, and I say supposed to, words matter. I'm not supposed to, but that's how I read it. I read it as I'm supposed to be okay with all this ambiguity and this uncertainty, but I'm somehow supposed to make a decision from a place of clarity. And as a projector I'm triple split. My throat is only connected to my sense of self. So I'm very much someone who has to verbally process everything, right? My daughter's like, Mom, why do you narrate your whole life? I'm like, I'm just processing, right? But that's how I do things. So I would talk through my emotional wave with my open solar plex husband prior to human design, and he has a defined ajna. And I would be like, well, I'm trying to decide if I want to do this or this. And he would right away give me his opinion of what he thought the right answer was, because he's super logical. He's got that logical 1762 to the throat. And I would say, but, I'm not sure that that's right because this, and I'd tell him my reasonings. And so then he would ask more questions to the point where it now felt like I was defending one side. And in his mind, I had made up my mind that this one side was my answer because I had defended it so strongly to him. And then it would almost seem like somehow he had talked me into the opposite of what my defined will against his open will. Like I'd somehow make a decision just because I had to show him that he wasn't right. It became, because that's the other thing, needing to be certain. So emotional clarity was never something I knew how to do. And as I went through the human design process of waiting for it, I realized I could not, or I was best served by not talking about my emotional decisions in the beginning, because it just, I was so out of sorts in it. And then realizing it wasn't something that meant just wait and think about it that whole time and then mentally try to make this decision over the course of time, because that just creates anxiety. And that's where I was living, was mental anxiety, because I didn't have emotional clarity. Right. So when I learned to just say, I don't know, this doesn't feel like a yes, so I guess for now it's a no. And then I would just wait until either time runs out and I'm like, well, it was a no because I never got a yes, and that would annoy some people, but you have to let go of that, right? So I'm imagining as a coach, when you have a client who's just like, I don't know, it could have been really annoying.
You mean like during our coaching process? Like if they're trying to make a decision and they don't know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, thank you for sharing your experience. That's one of my most favorite things about human design, is getting to listen and hear and understand other people's experience of how their energy moves and how they make decisions. Cause it helps me understand how to talk about it better with the parts of the design I don't have. So yeah, I'd say for clients, it's one of the biggest deconditioning challenges with emotional authority. It sounds like you went through a big journey, a big, powerful journey with that. And that is because we have been trained by society to use our mind to try to figure it all out. And when you have an emotional authority, this brilliant genius, this wisdom in the solar plexus center, right between two neural networks, right? 40,000 neurons in the heart, 100 million neurons in the gut, solar plexus area, kind of, in this area physiologically. And in Chinese medicine too, this is like where we store all our suppressed emotions. So there's a lot going on there. And in the face of a society that's constantly pressuring clarity and decision making and rewarding people that do that, human design is a brave path. For anyone watching, anyone on this journey, I just want to celebrate you for a moment, because it takes bravery to trust that by following your wisdom, you will get rewarded in a bigger way than society. And it takes time to unravel all those patterns that you built momentum with the mind. Like you said in your example, just trying to make sense of all the ways you're taking in other people's emotions and trying to talk it out before it's ready to be talked about. And all of the challenges that come with that. So yes, it's challenging for my clients with emotional authority to allow themselves to not know. And that's the biggest thing I hold space for.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So back to your journey. So you were working, I'm trying to remember where we were at before I got caught up in my own story.
Okay.
But you were talking about emotions and the solar plexus with your clients. And so you're working with clients you're working with doing this with clients as you're working on learning, living human design yourself, right?
Totally. Yes. For a few years, it was, I'm learning, I'm practicing, I'm building, and I wasn't really giving readings at first, or even like I mentioned, when I first just ran their charts, I was like, well, I don't even know how to talk about this with them, but let me play. I know they're projectors. I know they have these channels. What does that mean? And let me just try to tailor my coaching to that. And that started to get results. And then I started going down lots of rabbit holes. And that's when I started my training, probably 3 years or 4 years into my journey, 2016, maybe. I think I started my formal training with Human Design America, which is an incredible organization. Started to complete my training there and started to actually bring a human design reading into my coaching practice, right? As the first thing I do with any person. And, before my training, I had started it. I'm glad I went through the training, and I really recommend anyone that wants to give readings, go through a formal training. Not that you have to, and it's definitely recommended, and I feel it really honors the lineage and honors where it's all come from. And the Human Design America lineage really does teaches the structure of how it was meant to be read, how a chart is meant to be read, and I found that structure to be tremendously powerful when I stopped trying to read the chart as a shopping list and really learned how to synthesize a chart. Yeah. And training is just super powerful for it. To really go through the semesters and learn, wow, this is how it all works together. This is how to talk about all these pieces together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So when did you complete your training then? You started in 2016. Did you do it pretty straight through, or did you kind of take breaks?
I did 2 years straight through. So I got to professional training level 1. So there's 3 prerequisite semesters and then PTL 1. And then I took a long break, and I'm actually I did PTL 2 and 3 in the last year. So I took a break from the study because PTL 1 got me to a place where I felt really confident in being able to do it properly. And now I am in PTL 4 at the moment.
And PTL stands for?
Sorry, professional training level. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to clarify. So,
yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, and that's great. And there are a lot of different views out there about training, and and whether or not, there's like a whole like political environment almost around human design. If you get into like some of the social media groups where there are some people who don't believe that anybody who takes anything and adds anything to that initial training is correct, but we evolve as in every kind of form of thinking. So I think there's a lot of great sources of training out there, and I definitely personally don't think that that's the only place. I'm glad you had a great experience with them, but like I did my training with Karen Curry Parker, was my professional training, but I had read source material on my own. And then the training that I did helped to integrate that all in a way that made sense. Because when I was reading the source material without the training, I think most of the time it's really easy to just get stuck in your head when you don't have someone there helping you to. So that's a good segue into getting out of the head and into the body, which is something that you helped us do at conference, just even with a little practice we did in the morning. But I know that's a big part of what you do now. And so if I'm not interrupting a flow of anything, I'd love for you to kind of segue into some of the stuff that you are doing for that.
Yeah. And I think like you said, there's so many distractions in any world, different opinions, different perspectives, different people believing this and that. And I try to stay out of all the politics because I feel like it's really easy to lose the point, which is that we're in service, and, you know, human design is picking up in popularity, but most of the people that need our help, if you're someone watching this that is using human design or ready to support your clients or wants to, like, most people aren't going to go down the rabbit holes we want to go down. You know, most people are just like, how can my life be better? So, you know, yeah, like I said, I only have experience training with Human Design America, but I've heard of lots of great teachers, and I got the pleasure, as you know, to meet Karen. And I wasn't very familiar with her work, and she's incredible. And, you know, it is a different, and like you said, Ra never downloaded this. You know, Ra always talked about, from what I understand from the people I talked about that have known Ra, including Karen, and a few others, that, you know, this is meant to be experimented with. You know, they talk about that at Human Design America as well. It's meant to be, they're evolved and built on, and Ra did as much as he could while he was with us. So, you know, there's different viewpoints and perspectives. And I think the most important thing for me is, are you applying this in your life? Like, we might disagree with each other. I always feel it as a way to bridge and come together as a community. But it's okay if we don't. And it's the most important thing is, are we serving our clients, and are we helping them feel this wisdom in their body, with whatever way we're talking about it? And, so with all that said, that felt important to say, but with, this, embodiment piece. Yes, it's, something that's always been really, important to me, but I feel like in the last 3 years, it's really picked up, and it's been my evolution as a coach, you know, moving from at first really helping people navigate their belief systems at the mental level, then evolving into really helping them navigate their emotional, landscapes. And from there, and it happened with each level of my healing. First, I became aware of what was going on up here, realized I can be intentional about that, then realized I wasn't even connected to anything under here, and then starting to build my capacity to be here and feel my emotions, and then realizing I had taken my mental and emotional healing as far as I could for a while, and needed to actually learn how to be in my body more of the time.
I don't hear you now. I don't know if anyone else can hear me, or hello?
How about now?
Oh, yeah, now I hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. Okay, we're good.
So yeah, embodiment is so key. And it was a big part of my journey in the last 3 years, moving into like, okay, I'm aware of my emotions. I can talk about them, but I'm using human design, qigong, talent dynamics, breath work, yoga, meditation, all these things I've learned over the years. I'm using them to notice my emotions and then rise above them and live up here, and in the higher consciousness fields that I was able to becoming more open to connecting to, which doesn't really do anyone any good if I can't actually be in the body, present with my emotions when I notice them. So I feel like I said a lot of words, so I'm going to pause just to see if you have a guiding question, or I can keep going.
I feel like I'm following you, but, you know, as far as, so you're saying, if I can just make sure that I'm following, so you're saying that in order to be able to really rise above, first we have to be able to feel our emotions in our body, and then we can, instead of living our life in higher consciousness, we have to be able to be in our body as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about the order. Like, I think there's many people that can be up here without being connected to their emotions. I think, but yes, for me, that's only half the game. We are a medium. Yeah. We're all vessel, and that's the beautiful thing about human design too. Is a lot of people, I think, unfortunately, and there's a lot of this being perpetuated on social media and encouraged, are using human design as another box to put themselves in. And the beauty of human design, when you're truly using it as the map and the tool it is it's actually helps you step out of all your boxes, because it helps you separate this thing that I call Orion from who I am, which is much more than that. But this is part of all of that, you know. So this Orion is this vessel, this vehicle I'm driving around this earth to bring forth a very particular aspect of consciousness or purpose, or, you know, in human design called the incarnation cross, like that comes into our crown or our head center, and we feel it as pressure to think, pressure to figure out. And when we can build our capacity to be with that pressure and let it flow into the body, and then with the energy coming from the earth, because we're this electrical being. Like electricity flows through our nervous system, and we get it charged from the earth and from the cosmos, which is what comes into the head center and the root center, and then starts to move through our unique energetics. So when we can start trusting that and realize, like, okay, we're designed to feel pressure. We're designed to feel pressure and drive in unique ways based on our different charts and mechanics, but we're not meant to like figure it all out with our mind. We're actually meant to like build our capacity to be present with what it's like to be a vessel, to be a medium, literally in between heaven and earth. We're in the middle. We're a medium. So if we only are living up here, we're connected to the consciousness. But that's why, a lot of people, and myself included, when we feel that call, we feel the higher consciousness call, we feel the desire to wake up to something bigger than what we've learned or the world is. I struggled with money for a long time. And I know a lot of people on the spiritual path do, because, and sometimes in the name of activism, which I did for a very long time, I considered myself a modern day Robin Hood savior person for a while, and was like, taking money, but giving it away and I didn't really change anything because I wasn't able to hold energy. And my mind was trying to strategize and earn my worth, because I have an open ego center, earn my worth through this. But I'm getting a little all over the place. The point is, there's this tendency to, if we can't hold the energy and be present in our body, it's really hard to create change in the material realm. And we can think we're doing that, but if we're rising above our own bodies, then we're also floating above the world. And we can't really do anything to actually help and create lasting change until we can be here.
Yeah, that's really, that's deep. That's real. And the way you started to go, where, I have my little note, bullet points of things I want to make sure we talk about. And it's like, you just keep flowing, and you like started to segue into my next thing, which is abundance mindset and this prosperity versus wealth video that I posted in the group that I can link when I put this on YouTube. I'll put a link to that video of yours, because that really spoke to me in a lot of ways. And I know a lot of people, and first of all, I say I am very grateful that I am very well supported. My husband has always been a person very focused on, stability. So I do not have some of the worries, but I do sometimes have that mindset of, not of thinking of my worth based on my ability to earn income, that sort of thing. But I know so many people doing deep, profound spiritual work who are just struggling to even stay in fed and housed, right? And so I'd love for you to continue speaking on that line and just going into what you were saying there, because I feel like they're just different, right? They're different things of storing energy, whether it's in our body or in our life, and whether the energy is in the form of resources of money or resources of love and self-worth, right?
Yeah. Thanks for that. Teeing it up in this conversation in that way. It's so important. Man, there's so much to talk about here. You mentioned the video on wealth, abundance, and prosperity. Wealth, how society defines wealth is the stockpiling of money in 401ks and IRAs and investment properties and all of that. And I don't want to give off any vibe of not being like thinking wealth is evil. I don't. I think wealth is misused, and prosperity is, for me, the flow of money. And if we imagine a river, coming down from a mountain, that river, you put your foot in it 1 second, it's very different water than what you put your foot in 5 minutes later. And it just keeps flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. And there's parts of the river where it pools. And nature is naturally gathering in certain areas. And there's stockpiling by itself, I don't think is a bad thing. It's about is it stockpiling to feel safe? Or is it stockpiling because you're safe, like from safety? Are you allowing the money to flow into the pool and flow out of the pool? Or is it like, this pool over here is the thing that's going to keep me safe? Or do you feel safe no matter what? And just a pool naturally fills up because you're living your purpose, and those resources support you in your journey. So, I think the biggest thing that I'm, always unpacking layers of is guilt. Especially as a white man, very most privileged person on the planet, most privileged type of person on the planet. It's there's this guilt of having too much, and I have allowed myself for much more to flow through me each year as my business grows, and to flow through me in new ways, and to have more love and more intimacy and more connection, as you mentioned as well, which are other measures of prosperity. But there's this scarcity mindset piece that I was stuck in and still get stuck in sometimes, still iterate through. And that I know a lot of people are, is rooted in a lot of collective challenge and trauma. If we, look back to the beginning of the beginning of money and the beginning of wealth, 3,500 years ago. And then if we look at what happened in Europe before Amerigo Vespucci came over to America, the bubonic plague, the people must have been a really terrifying time where resources were scarce, health was scarce. So that energy of I need to take care of me and my family, even at the expense of others, it's not evil. And this is what I get at: to change any mindset. It's about understanding, okay, what's this rooted in? Number one, what's it rooted in individually? What happened in my family, in my childhood? How's it rooted ancestrally in my lineage? But also, how's it rooted collectively? So we can take the personalness out of it, but also realize that, and to look at it with compassion, to look at our somewhat violent history as humans with compassion, and to look at ourselves with compassion, because it's that creates space in the nervous system to hold more money, to hold more energy. And it's really important to, I think, look at those parts of us and I always have to look at the part of me that is can I trust myself to be a good steward of this money? What blind spots am I in? What things have I not noticed yet? How am I going to potentially perpetuate harm? And I think it's easier to not have money and to feel I'm being a good spiritual person by, and this isn't with judgment, anyone that's watching, I'm speaking from experience, from being a good spiritual person, because I'm not participating in the capitalistic system. But without the resources and the peace of mind and the ability, the more resources that we have flowing through us, the more impact we can make. And there are ways to be in that middle place, to steward money in a good way, to steward a new way of operating as a collective in the existing way, to participate in the body. And I don't have answers, but I do know that the answers come from being willing to be present with the parts of us that are scared of all of these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I tend to, something I've learned about myself is I tend to, when I'm really listening, often not have a response, right? Which is a good sign for me, because often in my past, I would be thinking of my response while I was talking to someone. So when I don't have a follow-up question, it's usually because I'm yeah, right. So I really, the one thing I will say is everything you're talking about really coincides beautifully with this 2027 shift, which I know we didn't talk about that we were going to talk about. So I'm not going to get too deep into it because I don't even know your feelings on it. Okay. Because I, have read Karen Curry Parker's book, The Quantum Human, where she talks about the shift in the human design chart and how the energy is going to flow, and how we've been living in this cross of planning where it's all about tribal security and our worth coming from how we contribute to the tribe, and how shifts are changing. And we're going into the cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is your incarnation cross. So I'm sure you've looked at it, and it's beautiful energy when there's always people who take things and make it into some sort of a doom and doomsday. I'm forgetting the kind of books, you know what I mean, like an apocalyptic type of thing. But the mutations that are happening in the world, it's very prevalent now. It's not like it's going to start in 2027. It's already happening. There's such a huge push right now, or pull, or however you want to say it. The neutrino streams, everything that's coming in is like, we're getting these DNA upgrades. We're having these huge calls to heal ancestral trauma in our lineages. And, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about in the past, there's responses to all that encoded in our DNA based on situations that our ancestors lived through. And we have these responses innately because of things in our DNA that we're now letting go of, and we're upgrading, and we're going to this place of one, which is really what I'm feeling called to help people with, is knowing who we are as individuals.
Yeah.
And honoring that in community.
Yeah.
And honoring what's in the other person's as an individual in the process. I mean, I can't say that I expect you to honor who I am as an individual if I'm not willing to do the same, right?
Yeah.
So thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah, I've got lots of thoughts.
That wasn't a good sacral question for you, but okay.
No, great. It's perfect. Yeah. So yes, the incarnation cross is one of the last things that I dove into. And, being at Karen and Michelle Vandepas, I think I'm saying that right. Sorry, Michelle, a conference up in Colorado Springs, and then also being at the High Desert Human Design Conference here in Santa Fe. One of the things that I do see that everyone's talking about, which is beautiful, I'm always looking for where do we agree on everything, and is that we need to get back to basics. The more advanced you get in human design, the more important it is to get back to the very beginning, which is strategy and authority. And that, like you said at the very beginning of this, that this is an experiment, and that it doesn't really matter like at each level. So anyway, the point is, like, I was like 3 or 4 years into my experiment, and I'm a 2-4, so I've got this natural way of being. And now that I'm 10 years in and seeing all these young, whippersnappers or the one in their profile that know so much more than I do. And I noticed the part of me that's judging myself there. But what I realized is that the wisdom of the 2 line is the experiment, the naturalness of it. And I'm not here to investigate everything. And the 2027 shift is a lot about when I understood my incarnation cross, I realized it helped me trust human design even more. Because, and here's the key, here's why I don't go down too many rabbit holes, because your incarnation cross, I'm so glad I didn't read it years earlier, because I feel like I would have tried to do it. And the incarnation cross is not meant to you can't do it. You can't. No matter how hard you try. If you try to do it, it's not going to happen. It's when you follow your strategy and authority, when you listen to the wisdom of your gates and channels, it will happen. It has to. It's the natural cosmic aspect of the consciousness field that is meant to move through your vehicle because of your mechanics, and in the unique way, along with the other people in that fractal. And when I realized, like, whoa, this is already happening through me by the time I read my cross, because I had been listening to my design for 4 years and really practicing. And the 2027 shift, then I realized, like, whoa, my cross is the thing we're shifting into. How wild is that? And it's what I've been preparing people for and guiding my clients to, which is your voice matters. Every voice matters. You're moving out of the tribal conformity to individual emergence. And that the genius and creativity and innovation that's going to come is going to come out of the intersection of each person's individual, unique genius and creativity. And it requires tension. It requires holding paradox. It requires not conforming. There's no coincidence that AI is coming out right now. I know we don't want to get on an AI train because that's a whole nother conversation, but AI to me is, it's going to help provide such an opportunity for us to step into our uniqueness, because it's going to handle a lot of the tasks that we've been used to getting busy with. It's going to help create less busyness. Now, okay, so the 2027 shift. But again, coming back to tying this into money, like, when I walk around Santa Fe, then each month I'm seeing more and more homeless people. And it reminds me of, my time in Kenya and my time back in New Jersey and San Diego. I've always tried to work with communities, at first more as a savior, kind of perpetuating patriarchy and whiteness in a not so great way. But now over the years, I've learned how to collaborate with and listen to. And there's the question for me around the capitalism piece is like how I'm watching, like, I'm so privileged. I have this nice rent and this person is, sleeping under a bench. So like, okay, I'm realizing that it's okay for me to have more money, but what's my part to play in that person having more money? And it always, because I used to try to make that happen and we can't. And this is why it's so important. This is going to tie everything together, right? The 2027 shift, getting on board with where the energy of the collective is moving, which is going to create a lot more ease in your life, abundance mindset and scarcity and embodiment. Because what I've learned over the years is that I help more people the more I embody naturally. And if we are trying to change, I'm going to say something that might trigger some people. I'm going to say it very directly. If you are trying to change the world from a mental strategy, you are avoiding yourself. I'm 99% sure of that. I never want to say 100% because there's always a chance. But if you are trying to prove something, you are trying to fill some part of you that doesn't feel loved. And when you try to do that, no matter how good your action, no matter how big your heart, no matter how good the intention, nothing is really going to change. You might, like, for example, when I was in Kenya, sure, I helped to raise money for a new school and 7 houses. Those families' lives changed. They had a roof over their head, but systemically nothing shifted. I was perpetuating the same old thing because it was coming from the wrong place. It was coming from wounding. I was running all over the world for myself. I was trying to find my value in service. It doesn't work. That kind of activism doesn't work. It doesn't actually change anything. It helps. Like I said, I'm not saying any of the things you're doing, if you're doing good stuff, is worthless. That's not the point. And we need that. And it's not even bad. It's like, that was exactly what I needed to be doing at the time. And those 7 families needed those homes. And it's not a bad thing. But how can we, in the process of our service, also be willing to be in our bodies? Because change is fractal. And any part we don't love in ourselves it then becomes impossible to really change the world. If there's something just came and then left. For every hold on, let me pause for a moment. The stream just kind of cut off. For every way that we try to okay, this is it. For every voice in our minds that we don't love, we are not able to really be present with another person's voice. So the way that person living under the bench is going to have money isn't by anything I'm going to do, not in a sustainable way. I can say hi to them, and I do. I try to sit down and have a conversation and, bring them food when I can. But I know that's not creating systemic change. That's just me trying to be kind and give them a moment of remembering their, or at least having a nice moment with someone and being heard. But what's going to create change is me actually shifting the parts of me I don't love and creating space for those voices. Wherever there's a self-judgmental voice in your head, it's like pausing, unraveling that pattern. Why am I judging myself? Why did I create this part of me I don't like? Why did I create that? How can I be more present with that part of me? And that energetically creates a foundational shift. So you're moving from a different place. And that will allow more space for more resources, but it will also allow you to move from a place of alignment and not trying to prove yourself or do anything. And from that place, you can meet others in a completely different energetic foundation, which then has the potential to create systemic change. But if we don't, and I'm not saying stop your service, but how can you do both? How can you make sure you're not using service to get out of your body to run?
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's so much beauty and wisdom in what you said there. And as someone who really, I was very much an advocate, and I don't want to say that I'm not now, but I am not I was in a lot of ways an angry social media advocate during times when I didn't have time to go out and do, and I've been known to go out and hold signs on street corners and do other, various things. And I've gone on different things. But what I started to realize was how much hate was in a lot of that advocacy.
Yeah.
And even if they were hating something that they thought was hate, it was still more hate, right? And I had to really separate myself from that in a way where I will still vote in the ways that support the agendas that I believe are the best, even though they're all just two sides of a messed up coin, right? But that feeling of, I keep for some reason it just keep this one quote I have on a T-shirt from. Do you know who Brian Stevenson is?
No.
The book, and they made a movie out of it called Just Mercy. He's he created the Legacy Museum in Alabama, the legacy of slavery, and he has the lynching memorials and stuff. And I grew up in the Midwest, but we moved here 20 years ago in Georgia, and I live in a county that now that it's grown, it has a lot of more prosperity. It's not such a quick search mechanism, but when you start to Google it, I didn't know this till I moved here. One of the first 10 search results was always about the horrific racial cleansing that happened here, and how Oprah came here in 1984 to do a show because there were no Black people living in the county. And so there was all this stuff, and I was very involved in a lot of stuff to kind of acknowledge and move beyond that. But Brian Stevenson has this museum, and we went there because we wanted to bring this marker to our neighborhood, to our area from this museum. But he has a T-shirt that says, "Each of us is more than the worst thing we've ever done," because much of his legacy is about helping get people who are wrongly imprisoned off of death row and free. But that little bitty thing, because his thing was, it isn't even just the people who are innocent that we need to have compassion for. Sometimes these people who have committed a crime, that doesn't define who they are, the way we treat that, so I don't know. I'm kind of going on a tangent.
No. This is great. As long as it's okay for you to go down this tangent, so much I'm excited to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just really, that was speaking to me, and this whole idea that for us to really love all parts of ourselves, and as we teach our children to love all parts of ourselves, and this push towards conscious parenting that I'm seeing coming around is so beautiful, the way people are raising their little kids now. But there's still this, this push on achievement and, oh, you need to get these kind of grades and you need to go to this kind of college. That's still all there. But as people start embodying who they are, accepting all voices of who they are, and then raising children to embody who they are and accepting all voices of who they are, I think we're going to see people being able to live a more productive, healthy life, right? Because a lot of mental illness and things come from this idea that it's not okay to be who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that fractal piece. If we're not loving ourselves and all the voices in our heads and all the ways we've learned to protect ourselves, how can we love everybody? And again, I want to be clear that I'm not, because I love what you said about your awareness around the activism and what you were witnessing in there. And gosh, all that hate and anger is important too. It's like, it's all important. It's all to be met with compassion. It's just, how can we bring more awareness to what's actually happening in our bodies? How can we bring awareness if we're hating something outside of us? What are we hating within us? If we're angry at someone else, where are we angry at ourselves? If we don't love somebody else, we can't love something really icky that we're looking at in the world. What can't we love in ourselves? It's such a fractal. And the best thing we can do is first, like you said, love those parts of ourselves. And how do we do that? That's like when I first got into the spiritual community and people were like, just love yourself. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, what do you just love? Like, what is that even? I'm from Jersey, I'm like, like the middle finger is like my second language, in New Jersey. It's like, get out of my way. I'm trying to get my bagel to get to work. It's like, so then just love yourself. I'm like, what? Like, I'm like, look, I'm opening up to all this consciousness, but what the heck does that mean? How do I love myself? It just felt like airy-fairy stuff. But when I really understood, and that's what I help my clients do, like, what does that mean? And for me, what it means is, and it's a very simple tool I use with my clients, is the 3 A's. And moving away from the 3 F's. And the 3 F's is fixing, forcing, figuring out, which is what we've learned. Leftover remnants from the industrial age, from the information age. How do we identify a problem within ourselves, a behavior that is wrong? How do we fix it? How do we force our way through it? Or how do we force an emotion down that isn't correct? Or how do we figure out how to navigate this situation with our mind? And the 3 A's are awareness, acceptance, and alignment. And the second A is the most important, acceptance. How do we actually love and accept the parts of us we don't like? And for me, it was a part of myself that constantly ruined relationship after relationship after relationship. Fear of abandonment, anxious attachment, starting off really confident and 3 months into the relationship, feeling really scared and nervous and needing a lot from my partner and eventually pushing them away. One example from my childhood, from my parents' childhood, from their parents' childhood. And I could talk forever about that. But, I broke that pattern. I'm in the process of still unraveling the final stages of it, but my relationships are minutely codependent at this point. And when it happens, I can be aware of it and stop it. And how did it happen? It happened when I stopped trying to fix myself, when I stopped getting angry at myself, when I paused and was actually like, okay, wow, like, what does it mean to love myself? And then to really realize, like, of course I'm codependent. Of course I'm scared of abandonment. My parents didn't really love each other, not because they were bad people, because their parents didn't love each other. And because their parents didn't really give them a good example of love, because World War II, because drinking, because avoiding emotions, because this, because that. I grew up in a home where, and then my parents separated when I was 7. And, I grew up in a home where I didn't get the nurturing I needed. So I learned that my nervous system was like really seeking for nurturing from a partner in an unhealthy way. So how do I love that part of myself? Instead of getting so upset, I did it again, pushed another woman away. No, I protected myself. Like I learned to when I was 5, like I learned to when I was 6. I learned how to be a little extra needy to make sure I got my needs met, to make sure that I felt safe, to make sure to try really hard to be vigilant, to make sure I was never alone again, because being alone was painful. I got bullied all the time in school. I got made fun of. How do I analyze this situation to do the right thing? It was coming from all here, but it was beautiful. It was beautiful. That's the very thing I hated about myself. I found the beauty in. And then I was able to feel it. And when you can feel that, that's what changes the nervous system. Not getting it, like not looking at the mirror and saying, I love you, like without a feeling. It means, whoa, no, this part of me is badass. Whoa, wow. Man, what an incredible way I created this part in my nervous system to make sure I would never be lonely. Now it's making me lonely, but it doesn't know that. Little Orion doesn't know that. This neural network I created when I was 7, 8, 12. So when you can acknowledge it, that first of all, it's just electricity firing down your spine and into your ganglia and nerves, and it's telling your body to do something automatically, and depersonalize it, and then realize that pattern's been there because you needed it. Whatever it is for you, whoever's watching. And then when you can actually find that softness, that slows down the firing of the electricity and it creates space for something new. That, When you create space for something new inside, then you create space for something new around you, and in your conversations and in your relationships and in your financial world. And you build your capacity to live your design, which is going to guide you to opportunities for more money. You build your capacity to be in the unknown, to let your strategy and authority guide you into the unknown, where more money is available in alignment for your natural genius. And from that place, you get inspiration to live out your incarnation cross. When you do that, everything happens. You're playing your part. And that's the best thing that you can do for anyone around you that you might feel guilty about being successful about having more resources when these people don't. Because when you live that, we're starting to align to the world where everyone has resources, even who can't see it yet. And it's about trusting that. All right, I'm pause.
Okay. Is everybody else crying too? Because I'm like in tears. That was so beautiful. That was, oh my God. Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful, vulnerable, meaningful share. And I just, yeah, I mean, I've got the channel of emoting, right? So I'm totally feeling the beauty in that. And I know that people who are watching or who will watch that will definitely get a lot of value out of that. And we're getting really close to the top of the hour here, but I want to just say, you have a completely open will center. And in human design, I'm speaking more to those watching because I'm sure you're aware of this. Human design teaches us that where we're completely open, we're here to experience the full spectrum of the energy in that. And that conversation, that share you just had was such a full spectrum expression of your knowing your worth, that it's like mic drop, done. And I know that we're never done. So you're still going to continue to learn and evolve and grow into knowing who you are and loving the full expression of who you are. But that right there, that kind of message, when we put that message out there, when I take that and make that into a little clip or whatever I do with it, someone's going to listen to that, and it's going to change their life. Mm. And I want to thank you for that. And I know I've got a bunch of comments in, someone said, yep, crying. So I'm going to just take a minute before we finish, and I'm going to read through the comments here to see if we have any questions. And if anybody else has anything before we finish, there's definitely some comments in here, but as far as, some enjoying this so much. And I did share in the link up above a link to Orion's cross or Orion's chart, but he is right angle cross of the sleeping phoenix. She said I just said that. Okay. So there's some comments here. Gloria, who's a very experienced astrologer and human design, says, as an addendum, we may think that we can access higher frequencies only above the head, but those frequencies need to be integrated into our everyday living. They will give clarity to the next best action. And then she also says issues of social injustice, wealth imbalance also need to be addressed at the level of legislation. Having the right laws in place will create systemic changes. Yes, of course. That is very true. Yes, the more of us that are present this is all still Gloria again. The more of us that are present to ourselves and can love and accept ourselves creates the awareness that others are also to be loved and not judged. And so she loved the book, Just Mercy. A few thank yous in here. Ellen says, yep, crying. Somebody said, dang, they missed it. They'll have to go back and watch the replay. Okay. And no questions as of right now. So on that note, I love that we finished with that. I'd love to give you an opportunity if you have any closing thoughts you'd like to add, and then and then also maybe tell people a little bit about how they could work with you if that feels correct to anyone.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kathy. And I know we didn't get into too much of the geeky human design stuff.
That's okay. I knew it would. I knew it would all just flow. But we really covered the dynamics that we were talking about covering. We talked about, we didn't necessarily label them. I have a fully defined will center, and I feel like you just amplified everything about this sense of who I am and my sense of self-worth was completely amplified by you in this conversation in a way that really happened naturally, organically.
Yeah, thanks. And I guess my closing thought is just, and thank you, Gloria, for bringing the legislation piece again. And like, I can't, it's like being human is such a paradox. It's like, I'm so inspired by the activists that are feeling the rage and bringing their voice. And a lot of the people are, because they haven't been heard. I've been able to be heard. I'm a privileged white man. And I know that, in the field I work in with diversity, equity, and inclusion too, I do my best to learn and listen and just be a humble student of others' experiences. And I think that rage and that anger is important. It's a part of the puzzle. It's where we are now. And legislation, yeah, it's key. And, it's part of grounding that, like you said, grounding that higher purpose into reality. And some of you have that role of into legislation. And how do we be in the system to change the system? And so, and if you're in your human design experiment, I just encourage you to notice any parts of you that are going really deep into lines and channels and tones and bases and colors. And that's great. Are you also embodying? Are you also practicing? Because there's a lot of practitioners out there that mean well, that are teaching something that isn't embodied. And when you're teaching human design that isn't embodied, you're just not going to be as effective as you can be. And worst case, you might accidentally create some harm because it's not embodied wisdom. And I unfortunately, I did that for a few years. Was sharing human design before it was embodied. And I just encourage to be patient and you're going to be one of the top human design people. And if you're not interested in teaching human design, to really have it impact your life, use it as a tool to be in your body and build your capacity to, what's my sacral feel like? What's my solar plexus feel like? What's my ego? What does willpower feel like? Not what society tells you willpower is, forcing through drinking coffee. No, what's the real willpower? What's my G center feel like? Oh, I have a G channel connected to my throat. What's that energy feel like? Get curious. Look at your chart as a map. A map's only good if you actually drive the roads, right? So practice what those roads are. Learn what they feel like in your body. To work with me, orionohev.com. I'm having a retreat here in Santa Fe. So if you're watching this in September or October 2023, I have a retreat from October 20th to October 23rd, 2023. I am curating the group to make sure it's the right group for what we're trying to do. And if you're interested, reach out to Kathy or leave a comment, and I'd be happy to hop on the phone. We're doing Qigong and embodiment and breath work combined with geeky human design stuff to really practice looking at our charts. It's a small group, intimate, 6 to 8 people. We've got a few spots filled up, but still a few left. And I want to keep it small because I want to look at all of our charts. I want to look at our relational charts, our penta charts. I want to go out on the land and really work with you. And so far, everyone that signed up, what they want to talk about is money. So it looks like the theme is unfolding to be money. I'm tailoring it to the group that comes together. So I would love to have you there if it feels aligned and we are a good fit. I'm happy to hop on the phone and talk about that. It's in Santa Fe. And then also on my website, you'll see lots of different ways to download a free leadership report, which you can upgrade to a full report, including pages on your gates and channels, etc. And there's readings you can book from there. And I'd love to offer Kathy, my 3420, I forgot to actually create the coupon code, but I'd love to offer 20% off to your people for the next, week. So anything they want to go to my website on, I'll just get that coupon code created right after our call and we can post it in the comments, I guess, but anything that they want.
Yeah, that's very generous of you. And I, definitely will put that in the comments, I would love you to put that in the comments. So
sure.
Thank you so much, Orion. And I am still waiting out my emotional wave on that clarity for that going to Santa Fe. But yeah, after this conversation, I'm feeling a little high on it again. So we might need to give it 24 hours to come off the high of this conversation, to be completely honest, or I'd be like, yeah, let's go. After this conversation, Orion, I'm coming to moving in with you, right? Okay, I just felt so good about it all, so you might not do that. So, but anyway, I just want to thank you so much. I know we ran a few minutes over. I appreciate your time. And Every week we share stories of how my guests have come to understand themselves in a more loving and empowering way through the lens of human design, and how you think and speak about yourself matters. Human design can show you the reframe of not only your own story, but the story you tell yourself about your relationships. If you're ready to start living a better story, I would love to help guide you. DM me, or you can set up a free discovery call at kathybashanko.com. So peace out and see you next week.